Show video. Hello everyone and good morning, and I'm awake, and yeah, here we go. Hump day, middle of the week, and this week's been a busy week. We released the code open source on Monday. We did a demo on Monday. We did walkthroughs on Tuesday, and now we're back to some coding time. We're going to get in here and jump in and just kind of see if we can't get it ready for plugins so that developers can start creating their creations to work with this program and stuff. So I've got a little bit of cleanup code to do and finish up from some stuff that I had in the queue. So I'm going to finish that first, and then we're going to jump right into working on the plugins and see if we can add some hooks and different places where people can write code that gets executed from loading the server once the plugin is activated. So that's where we are. That's what we're doing, and jumping right in. So code page. Okay. So what I have here is, this is a basic scene. I downloaded it from the site. I got us going over here, and basically it's pretty straightforward. It has a ground. It has, a little bit of a plot for putting a building in it. Has a billboard ready to go to put an image on it, and it has even street signs ready to go. So this is kind of like the framework for a new building, in the middle of a desert area with hills in the background. Kind-of-ish. Yeah, that type of thing. Okay, so what I have here, though, is what I noticed is I'm working on the process that when you go ahead and change the default ground, it was only using images stored in the database before, so I'm in the middle of converting it to make sure that it works with file paths instead, since we're using more of a folder version with this release. So I'm not getting rid of the support for database stored images. I'm just making it where the default is the file-driven ones, and there's a number of places where we have to tell it and follow through the code to make sure it happens. So what happens is, let me go to the right page. First of all, if I go landscape and scene, and then I say ground settings, well, it shows me the current image, which I gotta let you know, we have the image on the scene is not the image that's showing there, and that's because I actually changed the image on the server and then downloaded one that's using the same file name. So actually it's using the same ID number even, not just file name, but same ID number. So because of that, the scene gets the one that it downloaded with, but it actually put it as a new identity in the database, and this one just thinks, hey, I've already got that number in the database, we didn't overwrite it, and we're good to go with this image picture. So we'll work on that later on. That's not what I'm worried about right now. Okay, so when I say change image, it lets me go over here to these images, and let's say I just pick one. It doesn't matter which one right now. Notice it's not loading the image, but I'm getting this thing in here where I'm tracking stuff. So, okay, so what I'm going to do is when I jump in there, I'm jumping into the code, and I'm starting to track and find out what's happening at that point in time. And what should be happening is this process works for selecting images on boxes and what have you. So somewhere here, before it gets this far, what we're getting is the image path is telling me the name of the folder that the image path should be using, which may exactly be, see, it's the file path. You know something, I may be just one step away from this. All I have to do is call the get around that, and I think I may have just fixed that. Let me see. I think I answered my own question when I was doing that. So let's refresh this page and give it a shot. See if that cleans it up and sets the image to the correct image. Edit community and edit landscape and scene. This is the extended ground we're working on. So if I change the picture, I should be able to pick any type of ground that I want, and it did. It now selects it. Yay, we fixed the problem. Save ground. And now that we've saved the ground, I want to double check if I load the scene that I'm getting that version of the file. So does it load it? No, we're back at the original. We're back at the original. Okay, that's just why I tested that step also. So we updated the scene and told it which one to be, but when I clicked save, it did not update. And the reason is, in the image path, we should have set, the file path is set Image name, that's set. So we should have had the right file path when we saved this process. So now that this part of it is working right, and I'm going to leave that code there that's commented out because that had to do with using it from the database. So I just want to make sure we know we can still do that when we are ready to. The other piece, though, is when I run this process and I tell it to save, let's go find out where that process is. Okay. Let's go back to edit community. The easiest way to do this, I mean, I can guess and I can find it in the code and stuff, but I want to show you if you're working on something and you want to find it, here's the easiest way to do it. That's the button I'm clicking. Take the name of the button. Notice that the admin menu item selected this is the actual function. So if you take the ID and we copy and we search for that in the code, we're going to find that in our admin page. Find all, and we now have this right here, which is the case, and save ground. That's the function that it's running. So now I want to find that. Here's the function, and now we tracked it all the way down to here. So if this value is not blank, then the texture ID. If this value is not blank, then the texture path ID. And then it updates the arrays of the current community, telling it which one to be. Then it updates the ground texture ID, which the texture ID correlates to this actual path ID. This ID and that are the same items. So all I store is the texture ID, and then it's all about the way that the SQL works to grabbing the correct image for the path. So let's find out what's going on there. First thing I need to do is we need to find out if this particular scene received a new texture. So if I go into communities in the database, and I only have 2 communities, otherwise I'd do a search and show you. But right now it's Desert 3D Community, it's the top one, and the texture ID, notice it says 4K GM. 4K GM is currently set. Let's first test this, change out the community, change texture. We'll go with something more extreme just so that we can really see the difference. And that's easy to see the difference. When I click Save Ground, I want to know, did the database change from 4KG, whatever that is? And let's look again. Texture ID, yes, we are getting the correct texture ID here. So that is telling us which one to go. So then that means something isn't loading it right, but it's good. We're halfway there. We saved the right one to the database. Now when it loads, we need to be getting the correct one from the database, which takes us down a different path. Let me go, I'll show you how to get there. Constructs, what we have is here's the ID, and find in files, I'm going to be finding this, find all. It's not going to be too bad, believe me. Okay, I did that on purpose because it's showing all the different layers. Knit session is the one that we're setting on the load. We have the community. We're actually not feeding values through those. This one is the part that's working, the saving it. Then we have this admin tool, which is when we're changing it. We have the constructor. And I want to double check first of all, did I miss the right path on any of these? It's init dot, so wtw init dot, okay. And we should be getting it assigned right here. The domain info texture ID and domain info texture path ID. These are the 2 items that set that particular value. So let's see what we're reading in at this point. And we'll get there. We'll get there. So I'm going to do texture ID equals, and we will Copy that whole thing. And then texture path ID equals this. And we're going to find out which one it's actually loading, and then we'll correct it if it isn't, which I have a feeling it isn't showing the right one, because if it was, we'd be moving on. So here we go, and we have the correct one. That's the one that's coming out of the database, and that's the name of the file. So if that's the case, then at this point in time, these values are correct, which is good to know. And then we have, from there, we have this path is what I really am interested in. I want to know where this path is being used. Okay, and it's in this core file that I care about this. It should be loading it right there. That's actually before the line we just did. So, okay, this is where we're loading it. So something after that point here needs to be telling us if this path, there's the problem, is this right here actually needs to be the default value of the path instead of this, because what we're doing is we've already set it to be a different one, but we never told it to load it. So I need to put this value here just so it knows, is it different than this? Then go ahead and load it. And it was something that I broke earlier this morning. So your copy that you downloaded was already correct on that line, even though setting it wasn't working. But there we go. Now we're getting the correct version of it. And if I edit the community, we edit the landscape, ground settings, and if I change this texture, we now have, let's see, let's go with sand, and now we have sand. Sand in a desert community, that kind of works. Okay, and when I save it, we're done with the scene, and finally, let's reload it just to prove we fixed it, and it is loading the correct one. There's our sand. Yes, we're good to go. Okay, so that one's fixed. And the last part here is, just so you know, I'm doing some bug fixes on the code that was on the site that I uploaded to Git. I'm correcting them to Git when I do them. And the final step is, as I correct them and fix them in here, the final step is after that, I'm going to increment the actual version number that you have, because you have 3.0.0, and we're going to call it 3.0.1, and it's going to be the bug fix off the release, and then that will trigger each one of your versions to require the upgrade. So boom, that will work. We'll get everybody on the right version, and with all these fixes in place. So far, that's the fourth fix. So we're in good shape. We're in good shape. We're not too bad. They're all modest things, so we're taking care of them as I hit them, and definitely making some fixes. I'm still playing around with GitHub and deciding what's the best way to do this stuff when I do it. So what I've decided to try is getting two windows up here to be able to upload the thing at the same time, all easy when it's just a handful of files. First part is I need that a little bit shorter because this is my list of files that I just updated. And I want them to be included in one build of an update fix thing all at once. So I'm going to pick a path here on my server. Let's go here. Let's go under content. It's a temp file. New folder. And I'm going to call this updates. And now I'm just going to use that path. And don't worry about it being in the content folder, because that's not the content folder I'm actually using right now. So you don't have to worry about those particular files. You won't even see them in my site, and they don't appear where it's being used in my site. So, okay, so from the root, which is here, what I need to do is we need to get each one of these files. We have core, forms, ground settings. So I'm going to rebuild the path. Core, and underneath core we have forms, and then underneath forms Notice this ground settings PHP. We're going to drop a copy of that file. Forms and ground settings PHP. Copy that file, drop it here. And the next one, okay, and then I'm going to close that because I know I already grabbed it. Okay, this one, I know where this one's at. This one I spent a lot of time at. But let me get this back on top here. Oops. Okay, the next one is core and then scripts. And help me if I create the wrong folder, because it's going to create a folder in the bad place. It's going to create a second folder in the actual code that I'm doing. So I definitely don't want to do that. I've got to be very careful to make sure I type these names right. No typos allowed. So under scripts, then we have admin. So new folder. And it's all lowercase. I'm not playing around with some case things. And in this file, we have this one, which is the editor file. That's our main core script. Okay, so we have that file taken care of. What I just saw as I closed it, I want to double check something. Okay, I'm good. I just saw some commented out thing and I wasn't sure what it was, but you know how that goes. It's commented out, so hey, okay. I'm not going to worry about it right now because it wasn't an issue. So the next one is core.js, which is our other core file. So it's in the prime. So new folder, prime. And in the prime folder, we need the core.js. This is our startup sequence. So we're going to take that, drop it there. And then we can close out that file. Okay. Let's see the next one, constructor.js, which is also in the same directory. So let's get that one. And then there's also object definitions. Figure there's a couple of them in here. And then the rest of them are not in that folder. So let's get rid of that one and that one. Now we have community PHP, which is actually the connect file. I know there were some mild changes everywhere. So let's go here, new folder, connect. And in the connect folder, we did the community file and communities file. We did both of these. It's a subtle change. I added one part of the object model backup path for the texture. It allows the rollback for the, it's only a temporary thing, but it allows the rollback for a change in the texture. If you cancel the change, it knows how to put it back in place. So until I figured out a better way to do that piece, I'll kind of keep it the way it is. I do it different when I do a mold because there's so many settings, but I could actually imply that method over here when I'm doing this too, but we'll get there. Happy birthday, Eva. Well, I made you moderator, so welcome to the clan. Well, happy birthday. That's cool. Okay, so I just did these two files. And then let's close those out because they're both in place here under connect. And now I have the mold form. Just getting a couple more pieces in place here. We're almost there. Under forms, so updates, core, forms, and we need the mold page. And just double check that it is, yes, forms mold, okay. Copy that file here. And then the last one is the CSS for the admin CSS. So let's get that. And that's under core and styles. So core, fine, new, folder, styles. And go in here. And then it's just this file, copy that. Okay, this is all of our updates from the root. And I spelled and did everything correctly, I believe. So the next part is taking it here. And I'm going to, let's play one more time just to see. Core, forms, scripts, styles. We're good on that. Yeah, I know. This is the part I don't want to mess up because I don't want to create a new folder in something that isn't supposed to be there. But we're going to drop that in here. And it adds those two files. Then we drop that in here. Oops, drag it. And we have those files. And just for one more time, just to compare the paths, form, scripts, admin, prime, scripts. Okay, we're good on all the naming. And updated. Okay. The next piece will be, this one is updated the process to change on communities, 3D communities, to use file path. Okay, we will commit these changes, and now that puts our code up to date on the site with that fix in place. Okay, so that gets us in place here. And okay, we'll take that file there. And now we've got all those updates in place. And I did include that script, which I know I created the styles directory. And there's the core. It's updated. Yay. Okay. So now we have those fixes in place. And it now says learning and content. Okay, that's all fine. Now it says updated instead of bug, which is much better wording. I said bug fix before. Well, then every time you looked at my code, it says bug fix. I didn't like those words, so I changed it where I was updating to now say instead of updated, it says updated, just so you know there's a change in place and you can click on it and see what the change was. So we're going to be using the word updated, and initial load was fairly good for the first things that I put in there. But now, like I said, it's a lot better to have, instead of these little bug fix words in different places, as I fix things, I'm going to use the word update or updated. Okay, I'll be consistent. From now on, I'll use updated because that's what I did. I updated it. Okay, so yeah, try to make it consistent with myself. That's, number one challenge. Okay, with that piece in place, the next thing I want to do is start working more on the plugins. So it's time to jump in on the plugin part. Okay, so we have this database. We've already read in and decided that we have a plugin. So let's go over here. I want to just, let's first close this particular 3D project because we don't need that screen open. The other piece was, did I remember? Just before I move on, I'm going to do one more check, and that is when I was checking for save ground, I told it to show me what it was doing, and I think, yes, I got rid of the tags there. And before that, I was filing into here. I just want to make sure I didn't leave some things that are right into the console log. So I'm just checking my paths here. Okay. Good. I cleaned up after myself, which was nice. I didn't want to screw that up. It's just making sure that I actually did all the pieces in place and I didn't leave my tracking information there where I was spitting things out to the side column. If I did, I want to make sure I clean that up real quick. Under set image ID, oh, it's not set image ID. It would be select file ID, set select. Okay, let's find it. I just want to make sure that this particular function didn't have any tracking on next to it either. And it looks like I was a good boy and got rid of all those markings. Okay, we're good. I just wanted to make sure I didn't leave traces of something that I was doing in the code. Okay, so if you're just joining us, I'm jumping into creating plugins. And what I've done for that is basically I'm creating a class that allows you to extend out different things to the plugins so that they can have one nice cleanup spot and work from there. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to get over here to where we have our two fake plugin placeholders, and we're going to start working with that. The first one I'm going to do, we're going to be playing around with multiplayer because right now it has multiplayer functionality in the code. Here's the plan. Right now it is using, I have a server set up that basically can handle the multiplayer data, and it actually will be just fine for now. But if a lot of people start using it, I'm going to need to beef up that machine, which is going to cost me more money, and there's going to be some things that I have to do with it. So here's the plan. I'm going to take the multiplayer functionality, and I'm creating a plugin with it so that the multiplayer heartbeat and different things that you're doing for your site is a plugin to your site. Then if you choose that you don't want to run the heartbeat on your own machine, your own server, then you can actually choose to pay for a subscription from me and upgrade it where it's using my server instead. I'll be very, very friendly with the prices, basically to cover my costs with a little bit of overhead, okay? So I'm going to be making a little bit of money on that, but at the same time, for running the servers and for keeping them up and going. But the idea is that if you decide you want to offload that traffic of the multiplayer functionality, then you would be able to upgrade it. But if you don't want to do that, you can always run it from your own machine, so that's not an issue. You would be able to run it. The server can handle this. It's just that if you start getting a lot of people in multiplayer and stuff like this, then you're going to need to upgrade and be able to handle more people. Or we can set it where it automatically doesn't allow you to set the number of multiplayers that you see in a scene to a certain level. So we're going to be playing around with the multi-lever functionality. We'll be playing around with testing it with as many people as we can get online. We'll put some handicaps that you can set on a server level so that you'll know that nobody can go higher than that amount on their settings. We'll be playing around with this, but basically we're going to develop the multiplayer functionality. It's already in there by default. It was already distributed, but I'm going to work with it, we're going to perfect it, and we're going to do a lot because multiplayer is, everybody knows, multiplayer is what makes it fun. Everybody wants to see somebody else walking around in a scene. When you tell your friends, hey, go click this link and meet me there, that's what you want to see. You want the interaction. You want to be able to show them your games. You want to see each other walking around, playing the games and everything else. So, okay. With that said, I have created this particular file, and I'm just going to throw it in my notepad so we have it. This is basically our loaded multiplayer, goes to the console log when it's loaded, just so we know that particular item is in play. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I want to see when I load up the scene, does it say it's working? No. Okay, we'll start there. Go to plugins, all plugins. We see the two listed and it's deactivated. Let's go ahead and activate that. and it loaded the multiplayer, but for some reason this scene right here did not upgrade. So that's our first step. We're going to go ahead and find out why and fix it. So actually there's an easy way to track this all down. If I click here, click there, I can see that it ran activate plugin code. So we're going to look for activate plugin, and I'm going to search for that in my code, which will give me, I know which file it is already, but we'll go ahead and take off the parameters. I'm looking for the function, not the use of the function. So if I take this out of here and just put an equal sign, find in files, and it'll take me right to it in my admin code. Okay, so this is the function. We're telling it to set the database, but let's see, when it completes that process, that's what I need to know. So we're telling it to go ahead and set the plugin, but we didn't make any changes right here. I think it's because it has to be after it changes it in the database. So let's find out. It's going to bring up our functions page over here. And here's where Open All Plugins should have refreshed coming from the new version. Now, first things first, if I go in here and I look, let's see, we have create user, blah, 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 blah. Activated should, where do we have that? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong table. Let's start by opening the right table. Okay, so let's open up the plugins, and we don't have anything listed, which means it didn't write it to the table. Okay, so activated versus not is if it's loaded to the table or not. So the first thing we need to do is check that code that we are on right now, which is we activated the plugin, we told it which one, and we passed that information to here. And I'm going to check the values going to the function. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to check them on the function level. If they get to that point, then I'll know I'm good for there forward. If it didn't, then I'll backtrack and see where we're at. So first thing is I'm going to go here, and I already know by the plugin loader is the name of the function or the name of the iframe. So it's also going to be the name of the function. So if we open plugin loader, get all plugins, and we're going to be plugin activate, get plugin activate, which is this one right here. So actually it's set plugin active. Sorry. Let me just, I'll do the easy way. Search across the files, and we have set plugin active. This is the process that we're running at this point. So let's check our values that we get this far, because I want to know what I'm trying to write to the database, and then we'll know if it's a database problem or if it's getting the values to the database. So let's see, what do we have? We have echo it to the screen. We're going to choose to put it into the console. Console log, and we're going to tell it to put these values here. So I'm going to say this equals, and then insert the value here, and copy that. We have 3 values, so 3 statements. And as you can tell, just if you're just joining me and stuff like that, you can tell that we now have the ability to run this code with all the scene running and everything else, because I switched computers. So okay, console log F5, and here we go. When I tell it to activate, let's go to plugins, all plugins. All plugins lists all the plugins that are currently in the directory. I think I need some border on these lines, but we'll worry about that in a minute. It's deactivated, so I click activate and uncut since, okay, escape sequence. So something happened with the plugin name came through and the first thing didn't. So what was the first thing? It's content path. Oh, I didn't escape it for here. I'm sorry. Which would also probably be the case for running the SQL statement. No, actually, content path is only used there. We should be good with that part of it. It should have been able to run it into the query. Okay, content path didn't show, and that's just this variable right here. So if I say add slashes, then it'll spit it out correctly on the page. So that's not exactly the part I'm worried about, because the content path isn't used in the SQL. It's just used in the plugin, telling it to activate the plugin by loading the actual code that it's in. So what we need to do is we need to check, first of all, I check to see if the case of if it's already loaded in the database or not, and I want to see what these values are. I know it's not in the database, but we need to see that it knows it's not in the database. Oops. So we set these two values because if it's already in the database and it's been deactivated, which means it's tagged for deletion, but it's already in the database. So if it's in the database, then what happens is all I have to do is change it to not be deleted. I don't have to enter it again as an insert. So basically it's the update command here in the database opposed to the insert into. So let's check that. One more value I'm going to check, which I believe I'm correct with, is we want to know if the user is coming up. So let's go ahead and have that display on the page here too. Just so we know we're passing all the values that go to the SQL statement. So that's user, and then finally the last part here will be I just need to know if it attempted the update or if it attempted the insert. It should be the insert. If it went to the update, that tells me a lot right there, because actually I can tell you already. If plugin name is not empty, then do the update. That's a problem because there's nothing to update. We didn't find a record. So if it didn't find a record, there's our problem. Okay, I'll just fix it while I'm here too, and then we'll test it with the fix in place. That's a good thing to walk through these things and talk about it, because sometimes you just notice things that should have been noticed earlier. So what it was is, if the plugin name isn't blank, needs to actually cover more area than just the one line. This one needs to be a different if statement telling it if it's already been found in the database or not. So we're going to move that over. We're going to move this line over, and we're going to add one more closing tag for that if statement there. Now we check to see if the plugin name's valid, because we don't want to add something that doesn't have a plugin name. And finally, the other part is if one of these would have to be found. Let's see, what do we have? We would have to have, yeah, okay, we're going to just do it. We're going to make this as simple as possible, and we're going to say z found equals blank, and then we're going to say z found equals oh, let's give it the plugin name, and we'll take the plugin name here, copy that to there, and now we have a variable that says when it looked it up in the database for that particular item, it found it. So now we just have to say if not empty, and we're going to use zfound. I think I already copied that, but here we go. If it's not empty, zfound, then we know it's set because we set it in both places. Unless it got a no from the database, it's not gonna. It's either going to be a value or it's not. Okay, so now if I run that process, I think we're set and ready to go. So loading up the scene. Go to plugins, all plugins, and here we go. Activate it, and loading back up. Okay, we sent some values and it did the insert, but we're still not seeing it set to loaded. So We have the content folders correct. Multiplayer active is 1. It doesn't have those values, so, and let's see, okay. And let's see, what do we have now? That all has to do with closing it out. We got to this line, and it didn't like something. We set the plugin name, we set that, and we set active, zActive equals 1, because we already just saw what that is. Zactive equals 1. User ID was blank. Why is my user ID blank? Okay, let's check that real quick. That'll... Okay, let's see. User ID should not be blank at this point, which means that I need to... There's a little file that I can run in the database here that tells it to check the user session. And if I check the session, basically it's going to update that particular user in here. So we'll know that it is valid. The other thing is user session ID. Is user enroll automatically checks get user session ID, which will update that session. And we want to make sure that only certain roles are doing this process. Let's see, who can do this? We should say that developers and architects, no. Architects are using the program more than they're blah, 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 blah. There's a kind of a fine line between that. We could do architects and... Okay, we're going to check a couple different roles. Is user in roles and... Oh, get user roles. No. We want is user in role, and we're going to check. We want to make sure, because this also validates that this has been set and loaded. So we're going to come in here, and before we do anything, before we even know there's something to activate, we're going to say if user in role, and that is in the WTWDB function. And then we're going to start checking the roles. And then that's going to go completely around this whole function, because if they don't have a user ID, we're not letting them activate anything, obviously. So this will get it back in place for us. I know I'm just being, I can move everything over, but yeah, we'll do this. Okay, and finally this piece up here. But if their role doesn't allow it, then we're definitely not going to let them do it. Just to see what roles we have, let's look at the list of roles. Users and roles, roles, where is roles? It's alphabetical. I should be able to find this. Okay, there it is. Okay, so we have the names of the roles is what I'm checking right now. And I'm going to check to see if they're, first of all, of course, we know admin, or we're going to let the developers do it, and we're going to let architects. We're going to leave it at those two. We can decide if we want to change it later, but architect would be somebody who uses the CMS but doesn't necessarily load new things to it. That's a fine line. I'm going to make it... Blah, blah, blah. You know what? You can set them for developer if you need them to have access for that, because that's one of the few things that they're going to be able to do that the other can't do. So we'll leave it at that level. And I already know that's going to give us a working model, so let's give it a try. And next, we take that all the way to there. And let's check and see, first of all, did we get something in the table? it did not do the insert, which is fine. I don't want it to insert bad data. The other part is if I'm inserting into here plugin name, guess what? We don't have a plugin ID anymore. That did not get updated. That's going to be a necessary evil. Okay, so wait a minute. Let me double check the table. If I go and search for this, your version may not have that. It may be one of the things that were left over from my version, but when I created the table, it has a plugin ID. Okay, that is incorrect, which means before I do another update, we have to be able to switch around and change this for this next update. We're going to need to do some table diff functionality because plugin names should be unique. Since they're all sitting on the same level of the directory in that folder, they are going to be all unique that you try to use. Plugin ID is actually not the primary key anymore. So what I need to change here is the plugin name. First of all, we're going to make it 64 characters because you can't have a plugin name that's that big. And then the final part is we're going to make the plugin name there, and we do not need this other key value now, because it was doing a key with an ID and with a name. We're just using the name. There's no reason to have that other field anymore. It just was one thing not needed. So default null, we're just going to say not null on that. And I'm going to do a table diff stuff on the upgrade process, and that's something else I have to write before we can release the update. But I do want to tell you that we are switching to this. And this is the table that wasn't being used by anybody. So technically for this install, if I wanted to, I could delete the existing table and recreate it on startup. That's something that it's an easy thing to do. I can force it and it'll create it. One-shot deal, boom, done, and then it finds it and it's all good to go. Okay, but we're not going to worry about that right this minute. Okay, so right now that will fix what gets loaded to the table. Now, since I'm fixing that, let's go ahead and alter the table here. And what I'm going to do is I'm deleting this selected item. We're going to make that the primary key, not null, and unique tabs. And that will take care of adding in, yeah, we just changed primary keys on a table. Okay, so now that that's fixed, I have a feeling that's going to fix our problem here. And oops, that's roles. Let's pick this, and now we have the right fields in the table. And let's refresh the page and watch it work. Okay, plugins, all plugins, and deactivated. We click the button and it is now activated. Yay, fixed the thing. Okay, so now it's telling it load multiplayer. So we have something in the mix now. So from here, what I need to do is now start defining the class that the plugins use and the functionality and the hooks of what you can do and where you can actually place code into the site. Starting with, the first one will be, okay, the first hook I'm going to add is adding a menu item. That makes perfect sense. Okay, I want to track which files I've actually changed. This one I did not modify. I just looked up something in it. So I'm kind of tracking these as I go. Plugin loader, I've changed things there. I did not change anything on this path because this one actually just pushed through. This one, I have not changed anything yet, but in my experience, I tend to change things here all the time, so I'm not going to worry about closing that one. And this is the plugin we're actually working with. Okay. So you know what? I'm going to take just a 5-minute break. I'm going to put a couple steps on my pedometer, and also I'm going to reheat my coffee because cold coffee isn't as good as hot coffee. So give me Give me 5 minutes and I will be right back, okay? See you in 5. Okay, I'm back and coffee is warm, which is nice. Yay. Okay, so jumping back in on the code, and here we go. Okay, let's see. What do I got? Oh, where was I? Okay, so now we've actually gotten this to go this far, and now the next thing I need to do is we actually need to activate the... we're going to go ahead and tell it to run the plugin... Okay, we have the plugin loader, but then I created one called plugins. Just like we have Connect and we have iframes, we have plugins. So plugins is a class that'll let us bring in certain functionality into this particular scene, and it should be awfully friendly for extending out anything else that we need to bring in from other places. One of the things I did before when I ran, let's see, we're going to be on, we have Connect, we have iframes. Okay, I'm going to take the iframes, and at the beginning, I extend out a couple different pieces. I don't need the config file again because we're loading these once the system's loaded. Database should already be loaded, and that one should already be loaded. So I think we're good on preloading those particular files. The only thing I need to add is before this piece runs, let's see, in our index page, we have a init session. And let's see, I'm doing this from admin first, and I do have plugin loader loaded, but I need to also load the plugins so that when it calls them right, get all plugins, that's the loader. I need to also extend the class of plugins so that it's already loaded by the time you get that far. I will do that on this level, and you know what, I'll do that on the index level after we've perfected them in this area. Then I'll extend them out and we'll do the loading on that side of it. So doing a little bit of both sides at the same time, but I want to make sure that it's already going to work in admin before I go bothering with the browsing side of things. Because I'm not going to be checking that page all the time as I go anyway. So, okay, the first thing is in this class, so we've changed that file. I'm trying to track what files I actually update and change, just to, well, opposed to fixing files and posting them out to the main content stream. I'm going to branch off, and then I'm going to do a full update of the whole site of all these different things, and then I'm going to publish back out the code of those updates. So there's no reason for me to really be tracking each and every day's worth of things like I do on bug fixes. Those I'll be doing all the time. But this particular one I'm going to do only as the full thing. So I don't have to worry about leaving things open that I used to track which ones I've updated. And it's not as important at this point in time. No hot coffee, you know it. Much better. Okay. So in this plugin, what I have so far is I have a bunch of different paths that it's pulling from different places depending on where they came from. So this particular one, it's loading WTW. There's two possibilities. Either this is being installed and loaded when it's running from the, let's see, when it activates. If I run this code, WTW is loaded when I run the code in line with browsing or admin, but it's not loaded if it comes in under an iframe, which is when I'm activating it in the first place. So I need to also extend out the iframes. It has these variables. Let's see which ones are in common here. I need to see which ones I can actually pull from here from an iframe. And let's see, we won't have certain ones. That is true. I may have to work on how we activate them and make sure that it activates it on the core level, not in the iframe level. Or I may have to do some dancing around to make that one work. We'll decide that. I may need to pass values to the activation so that when it activates, it knows these values to use. So I'll get to that point when we get there. In the meantime, I'm going to worry about, once the plugin is activated, what it does. That's where I'm going to start with, and then we'll go from there. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding different classes in here and doing different functionality. We may add some more values as needed, but the main part is going to be, the first thing is we have the admin menu, which, if I'm not mistaken, is already loaded. Yes, we preloaded the admin menu before we ran the plugin, which means it's perfect timing to add a menu item. So I'm going to uncomment this code. Actually, I'm not going to use the admin menu item directly. I'm going to do like I did on the iframes page and the connect page, and I'm going to extend out the other one, which is now plugins. So everything you need to call to do different things are going to be called through the plugins function. I'm going to be just throwing some things on this page for now. Then I'll sort that through and actually format it and put them into some, a nice plugin layout and stuff like that later on, or maybe as we go. We'll see. First thing I want to do is I want to add it and just show that it is working, and then I grabbed it this far. So the first thing we'll do is we have admin menu items, and that is part of this other, where am I going? Went too far. I only need to use this column. And it is the plugin for admin menu items right here. And we have add admin menu item. This is the function we're going to call. And so I'm going to copy, let me just copy that much for now. And we're going to create a plugin that goes like this and closes out, and it's going to return this get the right punctuation on that, and it'll play a lot nicer. And this is going to be called from WTW admin menu. Is it admin menus or admin menu? I believe it's admin menu. Yes, it is admin menu. And then we need that here, and it will be like that. Now I can pass through, and it basically goes to the admin menu class. I don't want the end users or the programmers to have to remember which class everything's in. So when you extend out and do a plugin, you should be able to use that plugin class as the thing that extends out and ties them from all different places. So instead of going, oh, this one comes from admin menu, this thing comes from WTW, this one comes from this other class, WTWDB, you won't have to remember all that stuff because you just use the extension, which is the plugin class. Once you have that set, then you're going to be able to do everything that you need to underneath that class. So add admin menu item is now natively in this class here. We didn't change anything on this page, so I'm not going to leave that open. We basically initiated the global for that and then added it using that own, just passing it right on through and returning the values based on what it does in that actual function. So the first thing we should be able to do now is when we refresh this page, let's see if it works. We loaded the menu player and we have multiplayer settings in the menu. So we now added a menu item. Boom, that easy. One line of code, well, two. You had to, in the plugin, all you had to do is use this global for the plugins, and then you can just say add menu item and it shows up. The next one is going to be the admin multiplayer menu category is going to have more than one item underneath it. I have a feeling we'll do some like who's currently on. We'll do some different things that people can check just to see what's going on with different stuff. We can see, we'll do some different pages. So for now, what I want to do on there is we're going to take this and we want the settings. We're going to create a settings page. And over here, this is the name of what it's going to be called. So we'll put the word settings. And that part gets, even if you change this value, it already knows based on this number where it's going to sit in the menu. And by the way, if you were to look in the admin menu class, here are all of the menu items and where their default menu placement is. Some things I use negative numbers because I may make it where you guys can't do anything to interfere with those core items on the top of the list. And then from 0 to 1,000, you can put anything you want in any order. So that kind of gives you a little bit of leeway with where to put things, but keeps the core ingredient at the top of the page. I may loosen that grip later on, or heck, you're coders and it's open source. You can change that if you want to, but that's kind of the concept or idea that I want to do. So right now, being a 91 means it's going to show up after plugins, but before the main settings page. So that's where I've chosen to place this one, and all I had to do is set the number here. So we have W multiplayer, and this one's settings. That's kind of the slug, if you will, from WordPress talk. And then we want this part right here, which that actually is the ID of the field that you're going to show on the page. So I want to make sure that's unique. Okay, we have not used that ID, that name, so we're actually in good shape on that one. I just like to confirm those before I use them. And then this tells it what order in the menu to be. So if it's not in a unique order, then it does alphabetical. Okay, so we've placed it here, and it does alphabetical based on the name of the menu item from here. Okay, so this will now be a second level menu item. This is blank because there are no images on that level anyway, so nothing to worry about. We can set this up where this is only used by a certain group of people, and all I have to do is array, and it's array of values of the roles that it allows. So if we only want to show it for admin, we can do this. If we want to add some additional ones, I can do developer, and that's the role. So we can have this part here. And then this last part is, what do you want it to do when it gets clicked? In this particular case, I did a console log just so I know I clicked that button. Watch this. If I click it, it's automatically showing 2 and 3, and it knows that that button's been clicked. So now I can add in some JavaScript that tells it what to do. I can say the name of the function and stuff, put it right in here, and it'll automatically run that when I click this button. But in this case, multiplayer, I'm just going to say multiplayer settings for a minute because we're not at that level yet. There's 2 pieces we need to do before we can do that. First is your scripts that you create, you need to be able to activate your scripts into the scripts with everything else. That'll be our first hook. The second hook is we want this to be able to open up a page that we haven't defined the page yet. So we have a couple different places that we have to adapt to make this whole thing work. Okay, so first things first, let's see that we have 2 menu items up there now, and we want to make sure we're getting what we need. And we now have multiplayer, and when I click it, oh, we still just have the multiplayer. I did not do the part underneath it. Okay, let's find out what's going on with that. Let me think here. Oh, I screwed up there. It's not underneath it because I didn't do that, which means I probably, if you look closely, there are 2 settings in the menu. Huh, my mistake. If it's the same name here, then it's a submenu of that item. So that's what we want to do. Now when I do it, we have multiplayer in the menu right there. And if I click it, where's my other? Oh, it still has 2 settings. It didn't update. Did I save it? Okay, multiplayer, blah, 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 blah. This is, yep, that's the exact same words. Okay, it didn't give me the latest code. We will refresh it one more time, see if we get the latest. Okay, we still have 2 settings there. What's going on? Make sure I do this the right way. Let's look at the class. No, I did that different. Oh, I reversed them. This is where we set it to the master play. This is its unique ID number. I'm sorry. Okay, we'll get this straight. That's why I'm doing this. Let's go back to our function here. It's this one that we want here, saying that it's multiplayer sessions. And then this one is the consistency with our menu that we're currently in. So it's menu level 91. This is the name of that item. And then we create the part underneath it, which should be this level right here. And this should be WTW multiplayer settings. That's basically creating the slug. Yeah, helps if I do it the right order. And this one I'm going to put admin just because it's doing exactly what that's saying, just so we don't end up with some name conflicts. Okay, so that one's unique, and let's make sure this one's unique. Learning how to use my own product. Yay! No. Jeez. We have those days, don't we? Okay. Okay, and here, let's reload this page and see that we've gotten what we expect to get now, which is a menu that's done right. No, we still have two settings. Come on already. Oh, save. Thank you. Jeez. And we didn't get the new page. Come on already. Okay, multiplayer and settings underneath it. Yay. Now we can choose settings, or we can choose this multiplayer button, and it can do the different functions based on whatever you choose. Multiplayer doesn't even have to have a function because all I'm doing is extending these different settings. So technically that one doesn't have to have a function. So I can go in here. Ooh, come on. Where'd it go? Said not playing nice or what today? Am I losing? I'm still streaming. No. And we lost the connection to our server, which is interesting. And is it back? Hello. There we go. Okay, something tripped up the line, but we now have it back, so we're still going strong. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I don't need a function on this top one, so I'm going to remove that one and just put null. It can be null or blank, and when it detects that there's not a function name, it automatically drops it anyway. I believe that's how I set it up, and that's one reason why I'm going to test it right now and make sure that it is the way I'm doing it. Multiplayer, and notice it didn't say anything in the column now, so we're all good. And then settings, now we have multiplayer settings. Okay, now the next piece that I need to do is I'm going to build a tool for adding content to a page. Do we do that? Okay, I'm good. Just had to think. Okay, what we'll do is I'm going to... There's the page that I want to add content to is actually here. When we build this page, it creates a full page piece, and it is this code right here. What it's doing is this defines under the full page form, which is this page that fills this gap here. It's not what's on it, but the fact that it opens that, opens that page. Okay, but when we open that page, what we have is, okay, so when it opens that page, what I have to do is underneath this full page, there are different div tags telling it what to show based on what you need it to do. So the idea is I need to dynamically be able to add something to this section before, right in here, I need to be able to add whatever items you've created. So in your plugin, first thing I need is I need to create a function in this class because it's kind of where it's going to run from anyway. So I'm going to create a function in here, and what I'm going to call it, let's see, let's get consistent with the naming of this area just so we have something. We're going to do that. And this particular one is going to, we're going to do a catch on it. Copy that. Go to there, and let's indent it like it's supposed to be. Okay, so what this one is going to do is it's going to be add full page form. And then what we're going to input here is the text that needs to be in the page. Okay, so we will be passing, I'm going to call it full page data, and then I'm going to use this one to decide okay, what I need to do is I'm going to be building an array of values. Kind of sounds right. And then when I run that, I can go through the array of values and actually dump them onto the page. So the idea would be that you input what you need in your thing, it goes to here, this ties it into an array, and then I iterate through the array to actually show it when I put that piece on the page. Make sense? It kind of does to me until it doesn't. So let's start with that. First part is going to be, there's another, we've done arrays already in this section, and no, we didn't. We did arrays on the menu page. I know how to create an array. That's not what I'm looking for. I just look for consistency. When I've done it before, I just want to make sure I'm naming them favorably and I'm kind of initiating them or doing whatever I do. In this case, I'm just going to call it public array, and it's going to be in this class, and we're going to say public array, and it'll be full page. Full page divs. There we go. Full page divs, which means parts of the full page. Got it. That'll be the array, and then when I used this particular array in here, see what happened is this is where I iterate through close image pod. No, that's actually just a key. What I did was, if you say add menu item, it knows to add it in the array, and then I tell it when to put it on the page. Ooh, that actually isn't a bad concept. I kind of like using that same idea because that was I know, I'm telling myself that I did a good thing. Okay. It's not vanity, it's going genius moment that, hey, do it the same way because it worked the first time. So, apologize, but yes, that's the way we're going to do it. Okay, so with that said, what I'm going to do is this. Notice how we basically load global admin, then we preload the admin menu, which is all of my menu items. Then I come down here and in the admin menu page, which is where I just dumped out a whole bunch more stuff. Which actually it's in menus. Admin menu page, I tell it to get admin menu. When I get admin menu, what it's doing is get admin menu is basically building, it's sorting the menu first, and then it dumps it to the page based on that sorted version. It will go through each items in the menu array, it sets the values, and then I tell it, here's the HTML of how to lay it out. Okay, so this becomes really good because first of all, I can watch out for the IDs to make sure the IDs aren't duplicates. I can check that if I need to. I can also randomize by them. I can do all kinds of cool things to make sure that that is legit at that point. But it's all in one function when it tries to spit it out on the page. So looking at the designs, going back to, I don't need all these pieces open right now. Looking in here, what I have is backing up, sorry. Did I close? No, this is the one I want. Actually, this is the one I want. I'm going to remember this, copy that, and I'm going to do two things. I'm going to break this piece into multiple pieces because we need two functions. We need one that creates all the existing stuff, which is all this stuff, and we need one that is going to assemble it and actually show it on the page. So what we'll do is I'm going to make this the one that assembles it all into one, and then make a function that preloads what it needs to. There we go. That's what we'll do. Two functions, cover the whole thing. This one is going to be load full page form, which keeps it right where we currently have it, which happens to be, let's look at the admin page. That should be load full page form. It's at the bottom, which means we are loading our plugins first. That's the main thing I was looking for. Get all plugins, loads up all the plugins that are activated, and now we're running this at the bottom of the page, which means we've already initiated the class for a init session, so we already have the array. Then we can use the plugins to actually dump things into the array using our, we're creating a function for that. And then at the bottom of the page, we will actually load full page form. So a couple different steps, couple different pieces, and we'll go ahead and take care of that. Okay, so that's where we are. That's the plan. So when we do this particular function, by the time it runs this, the only thing I need to do is in this section right, I know I already said it here, right here is where I'm going to load everything that I just grabbed. So it is full page divs is the name of the array, and we're going to do this the easy way, which is we need to define what the array does down here so that we can put values into it, and then we're going to use this to define how they come out of it. Okay, that's a good sample of a page. All we need is the structure. We need to make sure that we're wrapping it with this function here, that piece on the bottom. So each one of these things that come through, we're going to be getting a handful of values. The first one is Z. Okay, I want to see my admin menu that I add things because I just want to be consistent with. Okay, so it's ZID, which is going to be the ID of the field that we're using. So this will be the name of the div tag that it calls right here. We're going to keep our stuff around it because that's going to be shown by when we run stuff and run the code and everything. Okay, so that's our ID. Then what else do we have in here? We had a title, we had a sort, we don't need any of that. They have menu items, we don't need. There were sub-menu items, there were URLs. We don't need any of this stuff. Access required would be good. If they don't have access, we don't even load that section onto their screen. So access required, we're going to do that one in our new function. Followed by the actual page data, which is going to be the what it dumps on the page. Okay, so let's see here. Let's do something simple first, and then we'll build from there, just so we can see it work. When we actually create the function, I'm going to do it the same way twice. So do we need a database? No, we're not doing anything in the database. We can do a success just to let them know that it worked. So we'll basically be returning not page data, but we're just basically going to return that the item worked. Let's put that as true at the end of our function. This will just remind us to set it. And then that's what's going to be returned back. And now hey, welcome aboard, and yeah, just kicking it here. We're working on creating the plugins for the 3D CMS that I created. It's available on GitHub. The code can be downloaded at GitHub. Actually, links down below. Under links, there's WalkTheWeb on GitHub. But this program. We're working on adding plugins so that we can actually have individual code written by other people and activate it and then run it from the site. So right now what I'm doing is I'm creating a number of hooks so that you can create things and put them into the code and actually run with the site. So just jumping in here and doing this stuff. Hey, I tell you what, I did that kind of job for about 10 years. Yeah, it seems more exciting than what you're doing now. Well, I did that job for actually 25 years, and this is the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. So, so I can definitely relate to that one. But yeah, but what we're doing is, okay, so I'm creating the, if you picture what WordPress is to traditional websites, I'm creating WalkTheWeb to be the 3D browsing version. You use a browser, it's built over a Babylon gaming engine, and basically I'm going to let developers create freemium plugins so that they can distribute them into this product and be able to completely make some money. They can have updates and doing all kinds of cool stuff. But let's say you're the best guy at creating cars. You could create a plugin that, hey, you get the Jeep if you start out, but if you want the Ferrari, you pay for an upgrade subscription or a one-time fee to unlock these other cars that you have or something. Then you can use them in the scenes. So you can do what you're best at, but then drop it into this community of scenes of different things, of people that create different components for games. The ultimate goal is to do things like Ready Player One, all kinds of cool stuff. So make sure you follow me, because anybody that follows me early, if you're coding something and you decide, hey, I need this thing added to the main code and I need to make it work with the code, then basically if you sign up early and I friend you, which I'll do, then basically if you have something you need, I set you as a higher priority than everybody else. Okay, so my friends are going to be my higher priority because they're the early adopters, and you're going to help us get this thing lifted off the ground and going. So right now I'm building it so we can create plugins, and I'm giving some different ideas. Actually, I did it so that it can sit on any server that runs WordPress. So you can host it anywhere that you already host WordPress. It basically is PHP, it's JavaScript, and it's the Babylon gaming engine behind it, and it uses MySQL. Trying to keep it everything free, trying to keep it all easy, trying to keep it works on every server, you know, the whole bit. So when I first started coding this, I actually was doing it in C#, and then with WordPress's popularity, I decided to convert it over, and I decided I wanted to make sure that I was matching the technology that they use, because it's a platform already out there on the internet with millions of servers running WordPress. Why not use the same platform? No extra requirements needed. The only thing is it requires an HTML5 browser to use it. Okay, that's Canvas. That's all the games. That's all the modern browsers. So yeah, definitely that's the direction I went. But yeah, so we're just doing all JavaScript and PHP behind it. That's all this is. And right now we're in the process of adding in, if you add a plugin and you activate it, I'm actually creating the different hooks so that you can say, hey, I want to add a menu item over here, and this is what it's going to do when you click it. And then in the back end, it'll load up things that you can put into the Babylon scenes. Trouble with the menu. You know something. The cool part is this is a platform that already has multiplayer, already has avatars, already has users, base setting. You know, that stuff's all built for you. And it already has Babylon implemented. And if you build something for your customers and you hand them a copy of this code, they have an admin where they can come in here and say, oh, I want to edit the building and change it or modify this slightly or whatever. They actually have all the admin tools they need to work with the program. So that's why I'm doing it this way. Is if you decided you wanted to write a game and you had to write it from scratch, basically what's going to happen is you have to do everything, and it's going to take years to do it. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to raise the bar. Babylon already created their engine. We all use it. It's a great product. And on top of that, I built this tool so that it sits on top of it. Now all you do is create the items you need in the scene, opposed to having to manage how it loads things, how it unloads things, how, you know, you'll be able to build a building in just minutes, or click on a scene and download it and add it to your thing and just use that scene instead of creating a scene from scratch. That's the kind of stuff that I'm doing. So it's like rapid development for game development, but you can also specialize in what you do. The cool part is I've designed it so you have the 3D community scene. Then you put these buildings in it. It doesn't even have to be a building, but they're marked areas where as you're walking up, it loads additional code. So if you have a soccer field and you want to walk up on it, and now you're playing soccer and you have all these extra functions you can do, that's when you load them up. If they walk away, then it unloads them. See, that's the kind of stuff that I'm doing with this product. Okay, so it becomes very, very flexible. So we have communities, which are your scenes. We have buildings, which can be a physical building or a defined area within a scene. And then we have things, which are your avatars, your vehicles, your furniture, your trees and shrubbery. It could be anything you want. It could be a bridge. It could be a statue. It could be anything you want to drop into a building or a community. So it has 3 layers of building objects that you combine to make games, basically. Games, 3D shopping experiences, you could create a museum, you could create an online school, you could do anything you want with this product. I also allow you to create things in Blender and then import them in. So once you've created something in Blender, then you can totally, with animations and everything else, you come over to the media library, 3D objects, you export it from Blender as a Babylon file, then you upload the Babylon file to here, and basically you can add animations to it. You can, like here, we got a ceiling fan. We have, I got an error, I'll fix that. Don't worry, I'm working on it. But basically we have a ceiling fan and we have a file list, and I'll figure out what's going on with that. It didn't like to load my details page. I have something ugly on it. I'll fix it. But that's why I'm working on it. And it's, like I said, it's on GitHub. So I update GitHub and you'll get the latest version. I also wrote a way that this thing can automatically update. So I can publish an update. Everybody can just click a button and you get the latest version. So, yes, I thought this out. Been working on it for years. But for about 2.5 years now, I've been working on it 100% of the time. So as you can see, my brain is on coffee. No. Okay, so moving forward, basically, like I said, if you follow me and I friend you, if you are creating a plugin or something and you need something added to the core to make it work, or you need a hook in some place that I haven't defined one yet, or if you just need, here, change this in the core code, or anything you need, I'm going to pay attention to you first. So the first, I'm going to call it, you know what, I'm going to call it today, I'm going to say the first 50 people, because that's the number that they like you to have to be an affiliate in Twitch. Then basically, when we hit 50 people, those 50 are going to be my core friends. Like the idea? Don't worry, this program can actually help you if you aren't a coder, because you get the jump start. Then you only have to work on little things along the way. So it's cool both ways, but I really appreciate you following me, and thank you for that. And like I said, I'll teach you to code. I got a doctorate in education, and I've been coding for over 25 years. I was the webmaster of the county of San Bernardino, which by physical area is the largest county in the United States. So it's a little bit of my background, but basically, like I said, we can definitely I can teach you the code. Just follow this stuff and watch along, and you're going to find out how easy it actually is. We'll be able to do quite a bit of things in here. Babylon has a lot of great tutorials, and then once you've mastered that stuff, you can check out all the Blender tutorials that are in Wiki. They are awesome, and you can even do all that advanced work and then drop it right into here, and you know, it's really cool, all the stuff you can do. So I'm basically opening the doors. Everything that I do, I'm opening the doors so that people can totally do whatever they are capable of doing in this product. But it's going to give you multiplayer. It's going to give you the website stuff. Oh yeah, and by the way, we start all the websites. Instead of starting a website with www, we start it with 3D dot. Okay, so that way you can have your same domain names, and your 3D dot would be your 3D website, and your www, or without anything, could be your other website. Oh, that's a cool start. Yeah, definitely. But you know, all those people that dreamed about building games, this is the product that's going to help you make that happen. That's what I'm designing it for. So, so welcome in, and hey, glad to have you on board. And definitely, I have a ton of tutorials on my YouTube page down below. Things that I do here, I also post over onto YouTube, so that we have the archives of different things I was building and working on. There's a number of them that are listed as tutorials that actually give you talk-throughs of how to do things in my program. We'll be updating those, and we'll be adding more as we go. That's the whole idea. Make it a community of things where you need some, we can do it all, and yeah. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so with that said, let me jump back in. I'm working on the plugins. We activated one plugin, and basically, okay, I got to make a mental note. Where was that error that I had? Because I'm going to fix that. That was the details of one of the uploads. Okay. We're going to find out what's going on that page and fix that. I'm going to just drop myself a note so I don't have to go off in that direction at the moment. Actually, it was a 500 error, so that means this particular page didn't open. I should... There's an easy way to do that. Let's just open the page and see what happens again. And basically it is 309 Z sound ID on line 309. We're going to fix that real quick because we can. Upload details. Yep. Line 309. And definitely getting these pieces in here. Okay, so okay, so 309, I'm sorry, let's get back to that. 309 we have in here, and it's Z sound ID. Why didn't it like that? So we have Z sound ID there. We have it here, and let me guess, it's not set. It's set here, but it's not. Wait a minute. Did I go too far? Yeah, but it's not set at the right level. I think what happens is we set it at this level, and oh, it gets used. Oh, it gets used at this level here. So I just need to initiate those values at a higher level. We can fix that real quick. Oh, wait a minute. Is this part of a loop? No, the loop is right there. If stock equals 0, okay. And for each here, and that's part of that No, for each ended. For each ended there, we're good on that one. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I'm not taking something from a, oops, why did I only take half of them? I need all of these values right here to move up to this level here so that they're always available through what it's doing. It loads them and sets them. So let's see if that, oh, I don't want to say that page, but now this page goes without an error. Okay, that's a good sign. We'll do more with that later on, but right now at least it doesn't error. Okay, so back to where I was. Okay, so let's see, we're jumping in. Okay, I will leave that there because I'm going to end up updating that page on the GitHub site so we can make sure that that fix gets in place. The next thing is this part here. We have, okay, so what we're doing is we're creating an array. We want to kind of mimic what I did over here. This is just, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so I'm just getting the format so that I do it the exact same way every time. And this particular one is going to be this name for the array. And it's going to have, see, like I said, the more I can be consistent about what the field names are, the better off we are. And we will put full page data there and do it there. Get rid of the Z on the name. I use Z as a part to signify if it's within a function so that it's a local variable within that function. So you'll see Z in front of the names. It helps when I want to search for something. I don't go outside of its function or whatever. You know, it's an easy eye thing when I'm searching across multiple pages and different things. Whenever I do text fields on the forms, then I use a T in front of it just so that I know it's a text field, input field on a form. Okay, so we have z-axis retired and we have this. So now we should be able to add an item to this using this process, which, by the way, this is in WTW. So we're going to, first of all, take our plugins, and what we're going to do is we're going to add another plugin function. Whoops, don't type the word plugin. Public and function, and it's going to be called just what it was on the other page. And what it's going to do is I'm going to do the same format that I did before, which is global, and this one is in the WalkTheWeb piece, and then return WTW, this here and that. So what it does is it's a pass-through. You don't have to know this one's in WalkTheWeb, this one's in the admin menu, this one's in the database menu, you know, the class. All you have to know is this is the function I'm going to run, and it's in my plugin class. So from our class here, what we're going to do is we're going to start creating what that plugin actually looks like. So what the page is going to open up like. So we do WalkTheWeb, and it'll be plugins, and we're going to add something in here. So the first piece I'm going to do is access required. Well, we're going to set the ID of this particular item is going to be, let me see how my naming was. I like to be at least a little consistent with how I name things. Stuff that I add, I put WTW in front of it. Then anybody else can add using something else. As long as it doesn't use the same beginning, then we won't step on each other's toes. So WTW error page, for example. Well, this one is going to be, I want to make sure it's something not taken. I know. Let's go back to the class. And we're going to call it WTW underscore and I have a feeling that's the name I used on the other piece, so that's not going to be the name here. And we'll call it multiplayer settings page. For full page is what it's actually going to be. The part that it's going to require is an array of values. So we're going to make sure that we've processed that array of values and that they have access to it. And then finally, full page data. This is going to be what we're actually going to pass to the page to show up on the page when it goes. So we will, for now, I'm putting something so simple that we couldn't possibly mess it up. Okay, so with that said, now let's get back to our init class. We're dumping something in here. Now we need to decide what to do with it when we display it. And as you saw before, I've already done that when I did get admin menu. So I brought it in as a local array. This particular case, I sorted it. I don't need to do any of that. That's a multi-sort. We don't need to do that. We already have a variable that we're building off of because we're actually building this page data. So I don't need to do that. I'm getting there. Okay, so what it'll be is for each item in that menu array, and we're going to tell it what to do. So do I even need... We are going through this section where we are checking the... where did I check the get user session ID? Did I check the actual... Yes, I did. If user has permissions, and it's this access required piece. So that piece I want to keep in place. That's one of the reasons why I even grabbed this copy of the code in the first place, is because I wanted to make sure I grabbed that instance of what it's doing, just so that I have some type of thing to fall back on. So in here, it's going to be using this array, and equals, instead of menu item, that's going to be page item, page div, page data, and these will be page div. I'm just kind of looking at it going forward before I do anything here. I'm not going to worry about this section because we're going to build this section based on what we're doing. We'll decide what we need it to do here. And that was working on duplicates, and it had to do with a main menu item with sub-menu items underneath it. So I don't need all that code per se, but I do want this stuff here. First of all, if the ID is blank, so if they don't put one in, I'm going to get a random ID, and I'm going to go ahead and just give them a random 5-digit code, and it's going to automatically fill in there. 5 digits actually, since I use 5 on the menu, we're going to do 6 just so that there's no possibility of overstepping our menu items. The next part is we're checking to see if they have admin access right here. We're reading that in as access required. We're not going to call this menu item because it's not. We're going to call it full page item. Okay. And I'll just do a little, we don't need that one, that one. We need this one, and we're going to need one more. We don't need these items because they don't exist for us. And that'll give us the 3 values that we need. This particular one was called full page data. And so we place that there. Now we have, okay. So we have these 3 sections in here that we're dealing with. Okay, so we have this, and we have now the 3 different items. And no, that's not it. Let's check. Actually, we don't even need that at all. We're not doing a URL. The only thing we really need to see is making sure that they have full page data. So we're going to do that. And then basically, if it's empty or not. And then the final thing is if That checks to see if it's set or not. If they didn't send it, gave us a null. I just don't want it to do anything. And then if this has something, full page data, we'll check to see if it's not. You know, all they have to do is put even just one dot on the page and it'll create the page. If not, it won't create the page. That's just a cleanup. So if it's there and if it's set, then we're going to do something with it. And what we're going to do is we're going to give them the layout of this line so that it automatically has the div tag around it. And we're going to close the div tag on the end. And that's because this is the part we're controlling based on that name that they gave us. So the ZID that they gave us is going to be right here. Okay. Okay, so that gives us that. And then in the final part here, all we need to do is say this is whatever they were trying to add in the first place. So doing that, we should now have a way to add a page to what they're doing. But of course, we cannot see that page because we have not defined what that page actually is. Actually, it's 2 levels. I'm sorry. We need it to be this part. We need it to be this part. I'm sorry. What we want is this part here is going to be the part we call so that we know it gets called when they try to trip the page. So I need that to be one of my names here. We're going to wrap one more level here in between. Just looking at it, that's the way we want it to be. This is the part where they're naming the piece. It's at this level. And the reason I do that is because it is actually, all of them that they create are going to be in this outer div tag. I'm taking control of this one. If there's any divs in there, then we're creating this section no matter what so that it exists. And then we're putting all of their sub pages within that div. So that's how I'm actually running this piece. This particular one then I will call, let's just call it WalkTheWeb underscore page, full page plugins. That way I know which one I'm calling and how I'm going to call it, and I can address that in my code that tells it to open the full page thing. You won't have to worry about opening the full page. You'll just have to tell it which div you want open at that point. So we'll give a sample of that code afterwards, but so, okay, we have this piece in place now. The ID, we want that to be in here. That's going to run it at this level right here. Okay, and now that will give us each one of their levels, each one of the divs that they create using the code on that side. Now the part is I can open up this using JavaScript, and we will do that. We have our menu code here. Okay, let's go back to here, sorry. And what it's going to do is just like we put in a function that did this, we're going to change this one and tell it what to actually open down here when they click it. So what we want to change that to is, I have a function, and we're going to find it real quick, and it is open, I believe it's open full page form. Helps if I spell that right. Okay, and I'm gonna, let's check, see if we can find that real quick. Yes, that's good. Okay, there has a number of other things, like if it's opening with a preview and you're sending an item where you need to give an image past some other things. The only part we actually need for this is actually the first two categories. So we don't even need to know an item name because that has to do with the other piece that we're not doing. Let's just make sure that if we don't send one in, it knows how to deal with it. And we'll do it that way because everything after that, item name, item path, and preview name are already set. So now this function, the only thing I need to run on this function is basically this name with the first one is the page ID. And the page ID is going to tell it what to put at the top title. No, not the top title. Yeah. Okay. Okay, and then I'm gonna decide that basically what page it pulls up, which is this level, and then your name of whatever you put in set category. Oh, we can give you the page title too. Sorry about that. We can actually pass that for you, and that will we'll use item. We'll use item level to actually tell it which div tag it is that we have to move. That will take care of the 3 layers that we have here. Okay, so we will do that here. Okay. So we're going to add one more level to this div, and it's going to be, we'll call that Z title. We add Z title. Okay, yeah, that's the closest I get to speaking a foreign language. I can program many languages, but I don't speak too many foreign languages. Too many. I say that like I know one. Apologize for, yeah, okay. Okay, this will be full page title. If I call it page title, I should call it page title here too. This is page title. And now that I've added page title will be set. I don't have to worry about it at this level because it's not at this level. It's above this level right here. So when I go back to this section right here, let's give it a page title while I'm at it. And that will be right here. We're going to call this multiplayer settings, because that's what I'm bringing up at the time for the full page form. And I see ya, Eva. No. And if you just joined us, hey y'all, everybody's welcome. There's a friendly ground for everybody. Do what you need to, and definitely. Okay, so what I'm putting in here is this one is going to run the code to open the form, which we just have right here. Open full page form, and we're going to pass on 3 values. Let's get back to where I'm at. And it's going to be WalkTheWeb function or class, this page, and then we're going to add in 3 values. The first one is going to be we're just going to call it full page. I'm going to leave it as, let's see, did I use that already? Let's double check and make sure when I use the page IDs, I didn't use the word full page. It's updates, library, media page, import page, users, plugins, settings, and error. Okay, we're going to create one there, no problem, and that'll be called full page like I said. We'll drop it right here. Okay, then we're going to set the form title, which is this line of code, and let's see, show set category. That will be the actual title that shows up on the page. Before that, it says users. No, we're going to call this Actually, that's the level we want this on. Sorry, we're going to move this guy. We're not going to have two levels. We only need one. We need it to just say what it says, which is what you send it to right here. There is no further piece after that, so we get rid of the image, which is an arrow. And then we get rid of top arrow text, which is following the arrow, and we don't need either of those. So now we have the full page text, which goes there, and then we do the comma title. And we'll go multiplayer settings. I don't know why. This one's multiplayer settings because that pops up when you click on that box and open that one. So this particular level would need to be the div I intend to open, which is this. So that's what I want it to be. And I don't need item because we've already... No, we did do that backwards. We don't need this here. I apologize. I'm overshooting a shot here. I knew there was a reason I didn't. If I pass it in this set category, then we have it for the namesake, and then the following item. The following item after that will be the actual item that we want to move. That's what we'll do. Okay, so set category will be the words. That allows us to set it right when we do our menu. We set our page title right with it. That makes more sense than where I was heading, so I am going to clear that out of there. Trying to make this as simple as possible and cover everything though. So, okay, so we create the div area. Then in here, basically we have the div area with its permissions, and up here we tell it 3 different pieces. We're coming in here and we're going to say, makes the most sense to say it here because this is where we're actually setting the name of the item, menu item. So why not set the page item that it opens up at the same exact time right in the full page tag? Then we just have to tell it which div tag we're creating that needs to be unlocked. So we do that piece, then we do show this piece, which is going to be the name of, right here, the master area, which is this one. So we put that part of the page open, full page plugins, and then finally we're going to open whatever item that they told us to open. Okay, so that takes us through a couple of different layers, but let's test it out. There was one more thing I just saw that I'm going to get rid of this piece in front here, and we'll leave a blank line in between there, but that should help. And then we basically dump the page on here. We should be getting some type of response when we click on that page. So let's see what happens. It loaded our plugin, so we're good with that. It should have told it that those parts, and it should automatically add the plugin piece. And if everything works right, we got the multiplayer settings section open, but we did not get the, let's see what we have here. Sometimes it's hidden and we just didn't drill down enough. So we have the full page form. Then we have underneath that, we have full page header, div page, update page, show page. We have a bunch of hidden pages. Full page plugin is here and it is visible right now. So we got that far. Okay, we showed that. Oh, it has a, well, its currently display is shown. So that should show, but there's nothing in it. So let's look at this piece here. We want to make sure that we are getting, oh, for each piece, full page data. Full page data was what it was called. Let's first check to see that it, oh, that should get something there. Okay, we're going to do a couple, we're going to trace this through the line real quick. And then we have, forgot an R, that's why I look at it. Okay, we're going to make sure that it's loading up everything it needs to. And I'm going to tell it this right here. This equals, oops, it'll be right here. And we're going to tell it that way. And that should tell us that we found it there. And then I want to see that we found it. If it's empty or is not set, then make full page data blank. Let's check it. Let's check it here. And this particular one is going to be, we're going to look to see if Z full page data is here, but this will be on load. I think we need more light. Well, we can move this lamp when I do it. Okay, so let's see, take this here. Let's see where we got to and see if it actually grabbed the data. Here we are. So it knew the data when it came in here, but when it ran this menu, it did not see it. So it put it in the display, but let's check the access. I think it's the access part that's wrong. So we will check the access required. Did the access required check for lowercase letters? That would be a good check. For now, see it as admin and developer. It's exactly what we did here. So if you can see the menu item, you should be able to see that item there. Okay, that makes sense. And let's go back to here. Let's see what's happening. So we wrote it in there, but we did not get this far with it. So it didn't write this part of the page. No, it did. Full page data is here, but it didn't get past has permission. Let's see if it got past this first page. Full page data is the name of the item. Access required is this. Okay, and that goes into the permissions, has permission. Oh, is it a comma separated? No, array. It's taking an array. Okay, then what did we miss? What did we miss? Am I getting the database functionality, which calls that function? Page data, no, I did not set the global. There it is. We don't have the global set for WalkTheWeb in this data in this function. That's what it is. So we're going to do it right here. WalkTheWeb DB, and that is the one we're using right here to check the permission and to get a random string if needed, and then we're able to do the rest of that. So let's see if that does it. Loaded, and we did not get past that second stage yet. Nope, it did not find it. So we're going to double check what that's doing at that step. We're right here. I mean, we are getting to this level. I'm going to check right here and see if it happens when we get that far. And I'm also going to check we're going to check the has permission part by putting something right here and just see. I highly suspect that this is where it's not getting through. And then we'll look at what the has permission thing has, because it should have worked. It's using the exact same code that we did from the admin menu, and the admin menu is showing up as expected. So is there something I'm not running that needs to be at that point in time? Loaded multiplayer, plugins, multiplayer, and it did not load those settings. Oh, let's check. Okay, if we didn't get this far, then for each this full page, oh, what did I type? Full page divs. That should have it. And full page divs, I set the array here. Oh, wait a minute. I messed that up. That's where their problem is. We didn't tell it to do it this way. And this is full page div, and that one needs to be added to the actual array. Now we should have something that goes all the way through. Thank you. We just following my own code, see if we can get it to where we need to be. Okay, so now we're getting into there, we're getting the permissions, and when I run this code, multiplayer, if I click settings under multiplayer, here we are, which means now I have control to create whatever I need to on that particular page. So that puts what's on that page now into the developer's hands in their plugin right here. Whatever you put in here, which I'll give a good example of one that's laid out with stuff that I do, and then we'll have you can set the permissions on it. You can decide what the data is that's going to go into this piece, and you can actually create the full page form, and you can even call it open full page form. It's called full page, and the only piece you really have to have is as long as this piece matches this name right here. Those two names are the same name. It's the ID of the div tag that it opens when you click full page form. So that's what it takes. That's what we have. And that takes you through A to Z through this process of adding a full page form from a plugin to there. So next time you see me, we're going to do the next step. That is one hook we've just added. Add full page form. And two hooks we did today. You've got the add the menu item, which allowed us to put the menu item over here. And then notice it has the settings. Wrong setting. It's this settings. Once we do it, notice it even has the toggle. So we can open and close. We can click settings here, and it opens your settings page. We'll teach you how to add things on their settings. Click a button and have it actually save them all the way back to the database. So that should take us through that piece. We're moving on forward. But I want to thank you all for joining me today, and it's been a good day. We did quite a bit of stuff today, and we're moving right on. You're going to be able to create plugins on this code really, really, really soon. So okay, I want to thank you all for joining me, and if you haven't already, make sure you follow because you're going to get the extra privileges. Oh yeah, and thank you, Mr. John Tell. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it. And like I said, the code's out there. I'm going to continue to fix a few bugs in it, and we're also going to keep on adding to it. When I release version 3.0.1 or 3.1 or whatever I'm doing next, it's going to include all this plugin functionality. So that's where we're heading. We're going to get this piece in there and everything else, and we're going to make it where you can create your own plugins, and you're going to be able to write your own script, and you're going to be able to dump things into scenes any way you please. So that's pretty cool stuff, huh? Okay, so thank you for joining me today, and I will see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.